Hi, everybody. If anyone can see my screen, we're just waiting to let everybody settle in for just a minute before I start actually presenting. This is new for all of us, so forgive me for just a moment as we chill out. But welcome to the College of Education. Catherine, can you hear me? Since this is our first time, I was going to see if my colleague here, Catherine, could tell me, yes, we're good to go. You should present now.
Yes, we're good to go.
Thank you, friend. It helps me feel less alone. So, hi, everybody. I hope there are lots of wonderful folks out there who are interested in our college. Please offer questions because I do have a colleague here who's helping to send your questions to us. So I apologize for any technology constraints, but just know that we are definitely here for you and your students. There'll be some contact information at the end for you to reach out and we can talk on the phone or whatever would work for you. My name is Joanne Yassine, and I am the director of undergraduate programs. So I'm like the lead advisor supporting students. We have a whole team, but today you just have my tender loving care. But we're gonna just go over some of the things that the College of Education is proud of and take your questions and talk about our majors a little bit. And I'm gonna struggle with this technology a little bit, so I apologize if that's apparent to all of you. So some of the things that we're really proud of in our college, we have 3 majors, as you'll see. We have health, we have teaching and learning, and we have human development and family studies. And I'm going to tell you a lot more about all of them. But some of the things we're proud of, the teacher education program has been ranked by the National Council on Teacher Quality as in the top 1% in the nation, which is huge for us. Again, some of these organizations will be more familiar than others that I'm mentioning, but I think this one certainly tells you about our quality. Our online program is considered number 2 in the nation, our online graduate program. So we're really proud of that. That's by US News and World Report. So you should know those guys. Our faculty are leaders in the field. So not only are they practitioners who've worked in state and local school districts, or in public health field, in industry, or in the public sphere. They're also researchers, which means that they really understand the sort of philosophical and theoretical underpinnings of their programs. So that's really helping your students get a good experience. We have diverse initiatives all over the college that really reflect our college's commitment to equity and moving health disparities forward, so that we have more equity in the world. I know that we have a variety of those kinds of programs. For example, there's something called Bounce, which is a cool program that sometimes our undergraduates or interns in, that's designed to help low-income folks and minorities learn how to make food more healthily and learn healthy living skills. It brings in like little children, little girls and their moms. It's a very cool grant program, and it's something our students can sometimes work with. And it's a good example, I think, of the kinds of work that our faculty do. Some other points of pride: 95% of our graduated teachers stay in our region. So we really are reflecting Houston, serving Houston. We're really proud of that. We're really proud of going back to our own communities and making a difference. 100% of our teaching graduates report being sufficiently or well prepared We have district partners across the Houston and Texas Gulf Coast region. I remember being very, very surprised to learn that we had over 30 regional district partners. I was like, how can there even be 30 districts in the area? There are, and we're really, really proud to say that we know what those districts need because we work really closely with them. We have a 92% certification rate, which I think sounds good. It's an A. But I think what is important to know is that the state's expectations, to my understanding, is like 80%. So we are definitely exceeding that. We're trying to work to national standards. So I hope you get an idea that your students might get a lot of good experiences. I also want to say I'm really, really proud of what the advisors do for your students. We have training in mental health. We have training in all kinds of areas in terms of serving our athletic students, our veteran students, our brand new freshmen who might not know what a semester hour is. We train to make sure that we're providing the best kinds of counseling and student success support, tutoring, things like that. And so your student, once they come to UH, will have a resource that will become hopefully somebody that they really develop a relationship with. So that's what we hope for with our advisors. So health. We're very happy to provide health as a major. A lot of folks misunderstand and believe that they are in the pre-med major when they join health. That's not actually the case. As you can imagine, we have a lot of outcomes and a lot of diverse students who want to join health. Some of them are pre-med, but as you can imagine, if you want to go to professional school, you can major in any variety of things. So you can major in biology, that's very common. You could major in psychology, you could major in anything typically, as long as you're getting the prerequisites for those professional programs. So we actually have a completely separate but complementary set of advisors called the pre-health advisors who work with students to make sure that they're getting the prerequisite courses that they need to go on to nursing school, med school, physical therapy, veterinary school, PA. I'm probably not naming yours, but there's a lot of programs and they assist with all of those folks. So our advisors, and this is true for all of our majors, but I think it's important in health. Our majors are going to really help you. Our advisors are going to really help your student graduate. And we also have all kinds of other knowledge, but the pre-health professions advisor is the one that really keeps all that information about the going to professional school. So, we complement each other, but if you have really detailed questions about those things, you probably want to go to that session as well, if you haven't already. So our program does have 3 tracks in health. Health promotion is usually for people who want to work one-on-one with any kind of client. So our pre-med folks go in there and our pre-nursing, all those kinds of things, but also things like, I want to be a diabetes educator in the community. I want to really turn this crisis around. I want to teach people about something like AIDS, and I want to be in the community doing an educational campaign. I want to, all kinds of things can be health promotion. Any kind of health education, I think, is typically considered health promotion track. There's a second track called health promotion allied track, and really that's designed specifically for people who have an associate's degree in a practical field. So if you have an associate's in science because you took all your basic core, that's great. We're going to give you credit for that. But for students who come in and they have like a dental hygienist associate's degree or a similar kind of medical coding degree, you may come in with a certain amount of health knowledge, but those aren't going to count towards your core requirements that you need. You're still going to need those. So what the Allied Health Program really does is it allows us to find a purpose for those courses, and we get to count them as health electives. It shortens your program. So it's a good choice for you if you already have that certification. If you don't, that's okay. We have other paths for you. Public health is our third main track. And that's for students typically who want to be researchers, who want to really understand public health. So we are in a public health crisis. That's what COVID-19 is. So the people who are doing the research and really predicting where things are going to go and understanding sort of what the profile of people who are getting sick or aren't getting sick, those kind of big picture questions, policymakers, those folks are typically public health. And so that's the track for people who want to go that way. There's all kinds of jobs associated with all of them. And to be honest, the tracks aren't that wildly different. So we have people who are in public health who choose to go to med school. So please don't consider these wildly different tracks. This is a list of sample positions, but as you can imagine, it's actually much bigger and more diverse than we're able to really explain. Human development and family studies is my second major. It's probably the smallest of our three, but it's very, very popular with the people with whom it's popular. So human development and family studies is a great choice for you if you're interested in child development or you're interested in families and helping sort of families, psychological issues, things that might be social work related. I'm just throwing out some keywords because for a lot of folks, HDFS is a great pick, but they might have already started in psychology and they come over. So a lot of people just don't know about this major. A lot of folks who want to go on to a master's in counseling or social work are a great choice for this. You can become certified to teach, as you can see. But most people will actually go into something a little bit adjacent to teaching. So for example, a lot of people who pursue this go into something called ECI, Early Childhood Initiatives. That's a job title here, but it's also a local organization that hires folks in droves to work with people in early childhood who may not be identifying that their child is behind and helping, especially low income folks, help their children be on level so that they succeed once they hit school. So you can see how they often work with children and families, but maybe in schools and maybe not, right? So it's a really wonderful choice, and please let me know if you have any questions. Teaching and learning is our very popular kind of traditional program. You don't usually need a lab coat. I think I had a photo mistake there on this PowerPoint. So imagine people working with children on this for this major. And essentially what we have are all of these different certification areas. We have early childhood through sixth, which is like a traditional elementary school teacher. We offer that at UH Sugar Land as well. So folks who happen to live out there, that's a good fit for them. Although again, in 2020, it's not as big an issue. We have early childhood through sixth grade bilingual. So that adds that component. And really that makes students very, very marketable. It's a really good choice for folks who need to get a position in a diverse school. It makes folks very marketable. It's a great choice. It's considered high needs. There are different categories that are considered high needs and typically come with pay bumps or are easier to get jobs in. All of our students generally are able to find jobs, but just think about like you would like to have a pay bump or you would like to have more choices. So the areas where there's sort of that kind of level of popularity is bilingual, special education. Those are things we do offer. Technology, which we don't really offer here at UH, although it would be helpful, and math and science. So if you're interested in specializing in math, science, bilingual, or special ed, that's going to really, really be a successful choice and get you some extra bonus, maybe some extra funding and things like that. That said, our students generally don't have a lot of trouble finding jobs, and I can talk to you a little bit about that more in any of these areas. So we also offer all level special education. There's actually another certification I don't have listed that allows students to do EC6, so that's early childhood through sixth grade certification, plus ESL, so that's English second language, and special ed, all three only at the sixth grade, early childhood through sixth grade level. And so in that case, what students would have is the early childhood through sixth grade general certification, but then you would be sort of doubly qualified. You'd have supplemental certification in ESL and special ed. So this really produces a strong early childhood through sixth grade teacher, and we're really proud of that certification. I will say, just as a warning, right now we offer all level certification in special education. That's something that's changing, and that's because of TEA, Teacher Education Association. Is that right? I might be naming it the wrong thing, but it's TEA. We're working on having to change that because the laws have changed around this. But essentially, you would just end up with like a shorter, possibly if the state law changes, you might end up with a shorter certification, like you would be early childhood through sixth grade only. But the nice thing about being a special ed teacher in this sense is that you are sort of the main person in the classroom. We also offer that supplemental certification, and that's really designed for people who are teaching a general classroom where they might have special needs students in there and they just really want to be very well qualified for that situation. So we'll come back to that. That's a little bit confusing. We also offer these four middle school areas. We call them the middle school areas, but they're technically 4th through 8th in math, reading language arts, social sciences, and science. So if you're from Texas, these areas, this structure will look pretty familiar to you. We also offer high school and all level certification in these special areas. So if you want to be an art teacher, that's actually all level. You would major in art and then you would minor with us. A similar thing happens in some of the other major areas of certification. So like if you wanted to be an English teacher, you would major in English and you would minor with us. If you wanted to be a high school English teacher. Does that make sense? If you want to teach high school, you have to major in the subject area most of the time. Talk to us for details, okay? It gets a little bit complicated. I will say at the University of Houston, just to kind of throw this out here, we do not offer coaching certification. We normally recommend that folks look for a primary certification, and then once they're certified in the state of Texas, they can work with the districts and become certified in additional areas typically, but that we just don't offer the coaching certificate as an initial certification. We offer most other things. Feel free to ask me whether or not yours is covered. If it's a high school area, I think you already kind of heard the list of the under 8th grade areas. Okay, I'm getting through this, but I'm sure you guys have lots of questions, so we're going to get to those at the end. This is basically how the teaching and learning program is structured once you hit a certain point. So essentially the first 2 years of a student's freshman experience, so we're imagining a brand new student, would do core courses. You're required to take a lot of core courses as part of your degree at UH, but then also in teaching and learning, especially if you are in early childhood through 6th grade, you're going to take a lot of core courses essentially to get the content area of being sort of a general expert on core topics. That's sort of what we use to say, okay, you're ready to be a teacher when you have enough of these core courses. So our students typically for early childhood through 6, for example, most of y'all will be early childhood through 6, we'll need like 4 math courses, 4 science courses, and a lot of additional core. And then if you're teaching in a middle school area, for example, and like, let's say you're an English middle school teacher, you should expect to take some upper level English in that first 2 years. So when you're getting that content area in that first 2 years, you're preparing for your last 2 years, which will be your work with the teacher education program for the most part, whether you're a minor or major. It starts with the pre-teaching coursework, which is typically about 1 semester, and you'll do rounds at various schools and districts. This is all based on like what's normal, not our special COVID experience this year. So bear with me while I explain what's going to happen hopefully in a year versus what's happening until the COVID crisis is over. So normally what people do are rounds of 1 day a week, and they rotate. We have a very complex assignment system that allows students to get experiences from all over Texas, or I'm sorry, all over the Houston area, probably not Dallas. The next semester would be developing teaching, and so that includes two days a week in the schools. And usually what you're doing at that juncture are small group teaching, one-on-one work, and reteaching. But you're not like the only person in the class, but you're getting more experience, right? The last 2 semesters are student teaching. And so that's where it starts to feel like a full-time job of getting experience, right? So that's where students typically aren't able to work during that year in gainful employment during the week because they're in the schools all the time. And they'll typically be doing 3 to 5 days a week in the schools under a supervising teacher. And then you'll also have a classroom experience where you can talk about your experience, so you're not sort of isolated at any point. The other thing I wanted to mention about the teacher education program that I think is really strong is that we have something called HATC, HATC. It's not a really clever name, but what it allows us to do is yearly, actually, I think they're twice a year, career fairs, essentially, and conferences. And so those conferences and career fairs essentially mean that the districts are coming every year to talk to us about what they're looking for and what they, I've heard sessions that are even just things like things to watch out for, what to not have on your social media, just sort of tips that the districts come and share with us because they want you to be successful. And then we also have career fairs so that by the time you get to the end of your work with us, we'll also have an opportunity for you to get a job on our campus at one of these career fairs. So we actually try to get our students to go every year to these conferences and career fairs, but certainly at the end, I've seen folks walk out with jobs. So I feel like between the student teaching experiences and really all of your field-based experiences, you're really getting a close, experience of knowing the people in the districts and understanding where you want to work. And so I just really want to underline that our teaching and learning students typically are well employed and sort of happy with job outcomes. When I started and considered becoming a teacher many years ago, 20 years ago, probably, at the time, the pay for an average teacher in the state of Texas was something like $30,000 a year. And for you, the students, and probably some parents in the meeting, I just want to say that last I heard, HISD was starting pay at something like $55,000 for a brand new teacher. So while I can't guarantee what the future holds, I do think that the field of public education and whether or not it pays a living wage and whether or not it's a good field to move up in has changed a lot in my lifetime. And I wanted to kind of share that because I think that there's a lot of opportunities for master's degrees and for moving up and principals and superintendents. And we have those programs and we're really helping see our students move up in those ways. So I think the future is actually very bright for our students. The other thing I wanted to bring to your attention, and then we'll take your questions, I'm hoping you guys have some, was that we have a program called PEEPS in my college. I probably can't remember what it stands for today, but it's a peer support. Personal early educational peer support. I did it. I'm so proud of myself. So this organization provides mentoring and support to our current students. I let that organization know just yesterday, hey, does anybody volunteer to be contacted by prospective students if they have questions about what it's like to be a student here? And these students all volunteered to be contacted or to come to events in the future. So feel free to reach out to one or more of these students to say, hey, I want to be a student. What's it like at UH? But in the future, I'm hoping to have students like them at these events. So that's really what I have to share. Catherine, what are we getting in terms of questions from our audience?
Okay, awesome. So the first question we have is, well, I'm currently in the education program already at my current school. How would that work / transfer over? Her current concentration is EC-6, by the way.
That's great. So what can I ask you, person who asked, were you from the state of Texas? And were you in a community college program or a 4-year program? Because that's kind of be the easiest way to be able to give you an answer to that difficult question. That's a good question. So while we wait for that person to respond, can I ask you to tell me the next question, Catherine?
Yeah, so the next one is, I'm a senior. When it comes to the requirements of graduating, is it required for students to get their teaching certification or they won't be allowed to graduate?
So that is a very good question. This person who's a senior is a high school senior, I'm imagining, since you're not a UH senior. What really typically happens for our teaching majors is that you are expected to get a certification and graduate with it if you were a teaching major. But obviously, if you are a human development and family studies major and it offers 3 other tracks that are not teaching, you don't have to get certified to teach to do it. Does that help? So we have some majors where you really do have to get certification at the end. And that's really just teaching and learning. That's really like the expected outcome is if you get 3 to 4 years through the program, that you're gonna jump off at the place we expect. But most majors at the University of Houston don't require or even allow certification. What's nice for some of our students is sometimes people choose something like human development and family studies, which allows people to do teacher certification but doesn't require it. So you can see it has the EC6 certification as one of the tracks, but it also offers just getting a bachelor's degree, which means, typically somebody who just wants a bachelor's degree in, human development and family studies and maybe a minor in psychology because they want to become a counselor. So why would they, or they want to be a psychologist, so why would they need to be certified to teach? So they just wouldn't choose that track. I just wanted to throw out there, Human Development and Family Studies offers this wonderful track called Nonprofit Alliance. It actually allows students to do a very special series of internships and come out with a special certification from the social work college that basically really allows them to get a good job in a nonprofit organization. And for those of you who don't know, a nonprofit organization will pay you money, but they don't exist to make money. That's basically the short answer to what's a nonprofit organization. So for example, if you want to work for United Way, you'd get a salary, but you'd be doing kind of charitable jobs. And so that's an option for students who really want to work in charitable jobs. Do we have any more questions, or do we have a response to the first question?
Yes, we do have a response. She said, yes, she is from the Texas, and she is actually a college senior at the Texas Southern University.
Okay. So the difficulty, and this is my like advisor hat, I'm getting into the bureaucracy with you, student. You'd probably have to talk to us in more detail, but typically if you're that far along, it's going to be really hard to transfer. And I don't mean to be unfriendly. I actually think that coming from TSU, because it's a state school, would mean that the most things would transfer, right? Like if you come from University of Montana, we don't have agreements with those schools as an institution to make things come over as easily. So the good news is you're from a state school, so we're going to automatically accept a lot of it. But there are rules about what is the max number of courses I can accept and how many courses do you have to take at UH. So for example, your minimum number of UH courses that you'd have to take in any major, just UH law, is I think 54 hours. So that gives you kind of a sense of what the minimum, even if the courses transfer well, and usually the senior courses are real picky and they're hard to transfer. But in addition to that kind of difficulty, I think usually students who are seniors in another school run into that 54-hour rule. So we would want to really talk to you in detail about that. But I hope that gives you an idea about transferring. Do we have other questions, Catherine?
Okay, that is actually the last question we have.
That's fair.
To see if she's typing or anything.
We'll take our time.
Yeah.
So do we have any notion of how many folks are on this call? Can we tell?
I do believe it's just Brianna is her name.
Okay. Hi.
So she's what we have.
When I give this presentation in person, there's usually like 60 or 80 people. I was not expecting 60 or 80 people, but if it's just like 2 or 3 people, we can just chat about any questions you have. Since it doesn't sound like there's 60 or 80 people watching.
She would like to see the contact information one more time.
Yes, of course. Sorry about that. Actually, so this is just the student contact information. But let me give you, this is the official the official UH contact information. And you're welcome to, that's not my personal email, but I know the lady who answers this email is my coworker, Laura, and she'll refer you to an advisor if that's what you need, or whatever you need, she'll refer you. She's great. So I would just email that email. And the phone number I put in there is my personal phone number. So if you want to reach out to me next week, feel free. You can contact me on that number. Would you like the list of students? All right, well, I'm going to give you the list of students just for fun. Catherine, is there anything we're missing or
No,
anything I
ma'am.
can do?
I don't see anything else on there. I don't know if she's still typing, but
That's okay. We'll just hang
she
out for a
says
sec.
thank you. She says thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. So that was a fun practice experience. I'm hoping we have more than 2 or 3 students next time. I'm used to having like 60, 80.
Alrighty, well, I think that is the end. I'll go ahead
That's
and
okay. What time is it? How do we do on time?
it's 12:45.
Oh, that's pretty good, right?
Mhm.
How far were we supposed to go to one?
Yes, I'm gonna go ahead
Okay.
and the live stream super fast. Just wait a second.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Brianna, for joining us. If you have any questions, please feel free to. Oh, she has one more actually. Sorry.
Oh,
I missed
good.
that. I'm so sorry.
No, we're like so glad you have questions. What's our last question, Catherine?
She is still typing.
Oh, no. Go ahead. You can tell we're just learning the technology. So thanks for learning with us.
Definitely. It was a great presentation though. I enjoyed that.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
I think when I can't see human faces, there's the danger that I'll talk really fast because obviously I talk fast. So thank you. I'm going to try to work on talking slower.
No problem. Her question is, would it be easier since I'm not in the student teaching part yet?
Oh, yeah. I mean, essentially, so let me back up. Which student am I talking to? Am I talking to the student who says that she came through TSU?
Yes, it's the same student.
It may or may not, because I think we when we went over the developing teaching and there's pre-teaching and developing teaching. So that's really where the content that you've already taken is. And so what we would have to do is go through each of those courses and do probably petitions, which is a slow, boring process. I'm going to be honest with you. But we could do petitions basically to ask the teacher education program, you took XYZ class. Here, this class is just X and Z. Is it similar enough for us to give you credit for that course? And it's usually like you'll have the same, in my experience, you'll have a lot of the same content, but it'll be cut up in different ways. And if we're not able to show, I just want to be really honest about it. If we're not able to show in terms of your syllabi exactly that your syllabus from TSU covered exactly the same things, then it becomes difficult to give you credit for those courses. So I'm not saying it won't happen. It really is going to be dependent on your syllabus and how it matches our courses at the upper level courses. Now, your lower level courses will typically transfer pretty easily. And by that, I mean your core courses. So like, if you took 4 math classes as part of your degree because your whole program required that, those math classes will probably come over as the same things and you'll have credit for it. But if, for example, your program at TSU only required 3 math classes for some reason, we're still going to need that extra math class before we can let you go forward. So it's hard to say until we look in detail, because I wish I could tell you that these programs were symmetrical, but in my experience, they're not exactly the same. It doesn't mean it's not gonna go well, but we'd have to look in detail at it for that reason. Does that make sense? I wish I had easier answers. But please email us at that COEUG and we'll get you to an advisor who can talk to you in detail about it. They'll probably need you to send in your transcripts to UH and get them actually evaluated, which means you'll have to apply, because otherwise the computer system, we won't really be able to tell you how things will count. We'll be able to look at it and we'll say, oh, well, this course is called, Math 101, but we don't know what Math 101 will be at our school until it gets evaluated by our system. So unfortunately, you're welcome to contact an advisor and she can give you an overview in a lot more detail than I'm giving you here. But I'm suspecting that she's not going to be able to tell you exactly what you have left until you turn in your application and your transcripts and you get admitted to the unfortunately. Because it's so detailed, we need your transcripts to get evaluated professionally before we are able to really tell you anything accurate. Catherine, do we have more questions? Did that answer make sense to you?
Yes, it did.
Okay.
But we no longer have any more questions.
Okay.
I want to say that we do have a paying for college presentation at 1, so you could always head over there. That's the next presentation.
That's an excellent choice.
But that is the end of this stream. Thank you for joining us. I hope we got you excited about the university and what it can offer you as a student. But like she said, please go ahead and contact them at any given moment if you have any questions or anything. Just feel free to know that we're here with open arms, ready to welcome you at any time. And she says, Brianna says, okay, thank you all so much again. Very helpful. I will be contacting next week, like stated.
Great. Look forward to it.